Hey, welcome everybody to the Writing Glitch. It's Cheri Dotterer, your classroom coach. Today, we're going to dive into simple word books by Cigdem Knebel. As
Uh,
she is
we need to start again because it's simple words books.
simple words books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I say your last name right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, welcome everybody to the Writing Glitch podcast. I am Cheri Dotterer, your classroom coach. Today, we are going to be talking about simple word books, and they are written by a publisher friend of mine named Cigdem Knebel. She has a child who brought her into this, so we'll learn a little bit more about that story as we progress through the interview today. And she now has a publishing company where she is helping other publishers of decodable books publish their books. So we're going to have to dive in and see what more about what she has to offer. But before we do, let's take a moment and hear from our sponsor. Our sponsor is Disability Labs. At Disability Labs, we are committed to impact the journey of 200,000 teachers by 2030 so they can reignite their passion for learning. Our professional development learning series focuses on math and writing skills to help all students in your classroom. These interventions improve students with and without disabilities. All students have access to the mathematics and the writing skills. Today, they are offering an ebook called The Pizza Problem for $14.95. All you need to do is look in the show notes and click the button, and it'll take you right to the page. Why the pizza problem? Well, the pizza problem really is taking pattern recognition and aligning it with squares, and it's teaching you how to convert what you see in visuals to what it looks like in mathematics. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But let's get on with, oh gosh. So let's get on with the show. Cigdem, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you end up where you are, and what is this publishing company? So that's like a loaded question, but go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life.
Sure. And first of all, thank you, Sherry, for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited. I love collaborating with you. I love the things you do. Thank you so much again. The publishing company started as a little project in our home when my son was diagnosed with dyslexia at age 6 and started the OG based program to learn how to read and write. And after a while, he was doing really great. And he said, I'm ready to read chapter books like my friends do. And we couldn't find any that were decodable. I didn't understand the word decodable back then. I wanted something that was an engaging story, looked like a big kid book, and use the words that he was able to read. And I couldn't find any. I started writing for him. And then there was a lot of interest around it. I started publishing my own books. And it became such a big project that we started a company. Then it turned into an even bigger company where now we have authors from different backgrounds that are publishing with us. Anything decodable is under simple words, and we have non-decodable words under McCorrell, which would be like books like Amir Baraka's Undiagnosed, Peggy Stern's SEL Guide, Teacher's Handbook, and many others that are stories that are worth telling. We need a lot of decodable books in the market, millions and millions, different genres, different reading levels. And I'm happy to bring, whatever I can bring to this world through my publishing company.
So your company has two different departments. One is decodable and one is non-decodable.
Yes, and the non-decodable is all about neurodiversity as well. So we are telling stories of, inspiring stories of dyslexic, and biographies, or some of them are fiction books that are based on their lives. Because I believe that dyslexic children need to really see themselves in these books, and in an encouraging way. We know they all struggle, but in that moment, they don't see what the future would be. And most of the future is, if you get the right support, right emotional support, especially, the future is bright. But, when they see people that are not like them in the book, they don't relate that, oh, I can be that successful person. So we try to find a great diverse group of authors who tell their stories so children can find themselves in these stories. And the decodable books are all fiction and, anywhere from like animals to, yeah, we have a few dyslexic characters per request of children saying we want to have. We have different genres. We have fantasy, adventure, realistic fiction, sci-fi. So I try to write in a very wide genre so that that first book kids pick up is not just the right level for them, but also the right interest. And we hear that, once a child finds that right match and starts reading, after the about first 5, 6 pages, they don't drop the book because they are able to successfully read without frustration. And that was my goal. And I'm really, really happy to get that feedback from hundreds of thousands of people.
That is amazing that you were able to take something that was happening with your child and bring it to a monetized position in your life. Now, according to everything that I read about the science of reading, dec- decoding it, they follow a scope and sequence,
Yes.
which is that organized fashion of how kids are learning to write. They start out with consonant, vowel, consonant
Mhm.
sounds and move on. How have you incorporated that scope and sequence into these decodable books?
So let me explain what scope and sequence is for those who might not really understand it. So scope are the skills that are used, and sequence is the order that they're used in. So as you said, although there are very different combinations of scope and sequences are there, it's almost always they start with short vowels. And then digraph blends, depending on, the program, are introduced. And then it goes up to more advanced. You never teach controlled R or silent E before, for example, blends or digraphs. So there's a logic to it. What we try to do is we looked at a lot of the like, mainstream programs and see what they were doing. So our books are You Apply a Line and Wilson inspired, Barton inspired. So we have a lot of different programs, as I said, we looked at and we said, what are the common denominators? And when we are focusing on a single skill, for example, the readers we have by Jody Ryder, we try to look at that scope and sequence. And up after they introduce the fizzle rule and CK diagram, then we look into the vowel team and we try to use only one specific skill. So even if the reader doesn't know a specific vowel theme that might be in a book that is previous to the current one they're trying to learn. Because we don't use it in that book as much as we try to be very transparent on our scope and sequence, so they can see that we can still pick that book even though they had another rule it before. So that is the sequence that we are trying to focus on. The first major, beginner phonics, and then we add one at a time.
Beautiful. I'm glad to see that your books are following the scope and sequence. Do you have any contracts specifically with school districts that they have your books in there, or are teachers buying them individually? How is it working?
I would say probably both. We have seen a lot of teachers maybe just buy one or two books, kind of try out if they are a good match or not. But our biggest customers are school districts and Board of Education, where they buy in bulk. They try to buy it per teacher or per classroom. So usually a set of six and multiples of six. And depending on the age range, I'll say, but I do not want to use age or grade aligned with our books. I would like to be clear that our books are aligned with the skills that readers are taught, but the interest level. So, a book that might be short vowel could be an interest level of a kindergarten or an interest level of maybe a second grader. And of course, we will say for interest level, depending on the title they choose, we are anywhere from first grade to, middle school. And unfortunately, some high schools also buy our books as well because they do have students that are reading as they call it, like a second or third grade reading level. Although, I do not like to use the reading uh, levels per grade because again, it's the skill that they know. It doesn't have to be a grade level.
Right. Correct. Now, this is the writing glitch. So we have been talking a lot about reading and books. How do your books translate to writing tasks?
So I believe writing and reading go hand in hand because if you can't decode, I think it's harder to encode. And also, there's that belief, right? Like to be able to fluently read something, it gives that automatic. Okay, being able to read and then write comes with automaticity as well. So once a reader is able to read a book like ours, for example, a book like this, a chapter book that is a big kid book, they're also reading confidence increases, and that confidence carries over to writing. They start seeing that they are working so hard and they're getting the fruits, not waiting, 2 3 years to be able to read a chapter book. And I think that is also important in all skills that are around learning. And a lot of kids do struggle with writing and spelling, even if they can actually read. But it just, I think, gives them that extra boost saying, I worked hard, I could read, now I have to work hard and I will be able to write as well.
And I always remind people neurologically, reading is one neurological path, writing is another neurological path. And typically the reading gets created first, the writing is lagging on behind,
Yeah.
and it takes longer for writing to be accomplished. You had said something that sparked something in my thought process, and that was aligning what you said to the word impact. You were talking about making things adaptable and including all the students. Impact in my world stands for inclusion, metacognition, perseverance, adaptability, confidence, and transcendence. You mentioned confidence. It helps build the confidence. By building confidence and creating these adaptable resources, we are building inclusion into the classroom. I kind of went backwards in my in my word there, but it all blends together and creates the outcome and that journey for the student that is going to be successful.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And also because our books are decodable, we have comprehension books that comes with each title. And, if I may ask a question to the student to, make sure that they understand and comprehend the text, which is really the ultimate goal of reading. You can be a great reader, fast reader. If you're not understanding what you're reading, then there's really no value in it. So when they have to write, and we say, they don't have to write the answers, they can orally give the answers as well. But when it comes to that point where they will be practicing spelling and writing, then because the story is decodable, they also will be able to answer the questions in a decodable way, which are, again, like using the words, the spelling patterns that they probably have learned early on versus, having to use very difficult words because the book is a traditional text. So I think that also supports the writing that they can actually practice with lower, or earlier, I should say lower, but with earlier skills in writing that they learn. And again, this is all about practice to build that fluency, to build that muscle stronger and stronger. And also, while they're succeeding it, right? It's that success, that accomplishment that I think fuels their desire and their strength to continue the long journey. It's not a short journey, unfortunately, for many kids who struggle. But there is a success path, and I just have to continually work on that. And it's sometimes very hard to ask these younger readers and writers to be that strong after a whole day at school, continue with the homework, the tutoring that comes with it. And our goal is to make that just a little bit easier, to have less scars and have less frustration and more success and fun throughout the journey as much as possible.
Hmm. Very interesting. So you also then touched on that whole journey, which is transcendence. It's that journey from the beginning of school to the end of school and lifelong learning. It's like it's not like when you hit 12th grade, you're going to stop learning. You're always learning every day of your life, even those senior years of life, which I'm headed to right now.
So am I.
And those senior years are where we kind of shift our focus and we become a, a different a different person. And that's where I'm at these days, which we've talked about. I had a question.
Take your time, right?
No, I know what it was. You had talked about comprehension. Is there a teacher companion to the books that you're providing?
So our chapter books come with a comprehension workbook that is the downloadable, and it has three different versions. One of them is a workbook version where the question is there, and then they have a space allocated for the student to write. And then we also have just the question list. It's the identical questions, but for those students who might not be ready to write yet, then they would be verbally answering the question. And then there's another teacher version, which is the answer key, because there's so many books and teachers don't really always remember what the answer might be. So they have an answer key for the comprehension workbooks as well. On top of that, we also have on our website free downloadable phonics workbooks that are all decodable. So all the words that are there are decodable based on the scope. And there's a sequence, but we try to again keep every phonics rule individual so that they can be used at wherever they are, that student is based on their learning. And because they're decodable, they can individually do it. And it's again, practicing writing.
So, occupational therapist, did you catch that? On her website, there's a space that you could download questions that might be going alongside the work that the teacher is doing in the classroom. So if she has one of the books that Cigdem's company is publishing, you can download the workbooks that go along with the book, have those available as resources that you can work on answering those questions in occupational therapy. And you can do it those three ways. You can either scribe it for them and have them copy it. You could do a dictation where you're using a tool like Otter AI that will give you a transcript in an audio file, and they can use that dictation that they just spoke and then write it down on the paper. Or this is what you said. Now write a new sentence and generate new sentences. So OTs, you can have a resource, and I believe you just said it was free that goes along with the textbook.
Yeah. All of our workbooks are free on our website.
So what a powerful tool is to have something that you can go have access to, even at the spur of the moment, as long as you can have that copy machine nearby. Even if you're in the middle of a session, you could look it up. You could even use your computer to help the student by having the questions available to them. So consider that collaboration in your classroom where you're taking the book, the text that the student is reading, and you're building and helping the teacher by working on their writing skills in OT.
And if you look at the free phonics workbooks that I mentioned, we also have games and puzzles in there. It is frustrating, I think, for beginner reader that is struggling to really master the writing portion. To get a word search puzzle, for example, my kids loved it, but only if they could actually read the words. And ours are decodable based on, again, the spelling patterns they have learned. And because they know what words they're looking for, it's not just a letter, now it becomes a word. And I think that is the pathway we want to really strengthen in the brain, to look for not just letters, but for words. Continue writing not just letters, but words and sentences, because that's how reading really starts and how writing continues. You don't just write letters, you write chunks of them that are meaningful because there's a vocabulary attached to it. And then with that vocabulary, comprehension comes. So we try to make, fun games that are decodable that typically, you find out in the, at those worksheets that are not decodable. Like, if you look at crosswords puzzle that are not decodable, they cannot do it on their own. And even though you think it's easy because it is put in a childish format, it's still, as if it's not decodable, it is not easy. It is just mumble jumble for them to read and write.
Mhm. So you have things like crossword puzzles and word searches and cryptograms and that kind of puzzle?
Yes, we have those. We of course start with more, textbook like, but for each role, we also have some fun ones. We have word searches, cross puzzles, and like braille codes, number codes, where they would have to kind of find one word, but then they have to kind of read the whole word and the sentence that they create.
I love it. I hope that you, the occupational therapist, find that as a resource that you can utilize in your practice in outside the classroom. But if you collaborating inside the classroom, like we teach in tier one interventions, that you can pull those resources to make it easier on your students. Shigdem, can you tell us a little bit about where to find your website and stuff? You're welcome to share it.
Sure. Our website is Simple Words Books. So you can probably edit this one out. So here is our website, Simple Words Books. If you go to our scope, I really think this is where the magic happens. So you can see like our most advanced book is intermediate chapter book, and then we have early levels. And I just want to kind of give you a little bit of an example of how to make use of this page, because I think it is very important that someone who comes to our website understands if these are the right books for the reader.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that it is emphasized enough in the decodable world that nothing is 100% decodable if there are words there that the reader cannot read. So, for example, fox sound, we say our book, this title is 98% decodable because we would say the reader has learned all these rules. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger to make it easier for the viewers to see it. And if the reader has not learned all this, and they're only learned short vowels, then this book will only will be 34.4% decodable. So they have to really understand where that reader is, what they can read to make sure that this is a success for them. And if you look at the details, you can just click on scope and sequence. We have a very detailed analysis. This is easy for parents. This is easy for professional teachers, occupational therapists to understand. They're at that level they are at. We would think they would know these irregular words. And you can see in each title how many times they're used. And then you can see the short vowel, the blend, and you can see like the percentage of it and which ones are used. And are they ready to read these words without frustration? And I think that is really important. And if you look at the words that are out of scope words for this book would be silent T. It would be words like and time. So there's only two of them used. For and her for controlled R, which are really easy words for most readers at this level. But because they're controlled R, we still want to be very transparent and say they're out of scope. Vowel teams, they, way, out, down, good, feel. And we do not say these are words that they should read out of memory or guessing, because that is really against what decoding is all about. But if you know these books are in there, these words are in there, then you can practice, or you can be watching out for these words if you're reading together. And I think this is very important that, this transparency should be in each decodable book. And this title, this is Fox Hunt, it has 5,506 words. And it's at our novice level.
So a book that's 5,000 words, How long does it take a student to read? Is it a typical student?
It really depends on, I think, if you would go by chapters or, their stamina. We have typically say like a book like this would be maybe like a week for a student to read. But I have seen students who are struggling to read, and this is like one of their first chapter books that they're trying to complete, and they've done it in like a day, which is, I think that kind of really blows people's minds because there's a lot of, like a space in there. I don't know if you can see it. We try to use
Yeah,
short sentences.
stop sharing your screen so we can see that better.
Oh, sure. So if you look at a book like this, here you can see there's a lot of white space in there. There's short paragraphs, short sentences, and it doesn't really tire out the reader. They're not saying, oh my God, a big sentence is coming, a big paragraph is coming. Those are all emotional challenges that are there. Yeah, before they read, they start getting anxious and nervous because of the past experiences they have with the text and books they had to read. It is also important that the chapters are short. The first book we wrote had 6 chapters. They were longer. I mean, when you hear the feedback, and I see it with my own kids, like and believe it or not, I actually still do it to this day. I look at when the chapter is ending because mentally it just gives me a break point. I might read 10 chapters, but knowing that that chapter is short gives me that courage to continue because I'm dyslexic as well, and I do struggle with these. Not, and I'm like self-diagnosed, but I do see the patterns. And when I look at my kids and understand why they're struggling with things because they're dyslexic, I said, well, it makes so much sense now with all the struggles that I had with reading when I was younger. And the comprehension and some of the still emotional things that come with reading that I had to deal with as an adult as well. So I put like all those thoughts in it in these books to say, what can I make it so that this is a success for a struggling reader who had already, but not positive experiences with reading. And in addition, and also at the back of the book, we have the same word list analysis. So you can quickly check. You don't have to go on the website and look for the scope and sequence as well. We have a certificate of accomplishment.
Aw.
You can download these in color on our website as well. I think it is also very important that we celebrate these accomplishments. This is a big accomplishment to read this in a week or two for a lot of kids. And they need to know that, what they have accomplished is just the beginning and it's, celebrated every single step of the way.
This is fantastic. A lot of the things that I have been trying to share with the world is how we can integrate those pull-out sessions as whole classroom activities.
Yeah.
I could see this being another instance where the the classroom has done whatever they're going to do as a whole classroom. We separate into small groups, and one of the small groups includes the specialized service like occupational therapist or speech therapist. And we can focus then on those skills that they need more support on and go around the room as needed, depending on what we're doing with all the students. And, and believe it or not, gifted students, kids who are not having trouble with decoding, who really do see those patterns with the words, which is a lot of times what these students are missing that have trouble with decoding. Even gifted students have trouble with writing. So there are things that an OT can do even with the higher level students.
Definitely.
So thank you for sharing your website with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close?
I want to make sure that we look at this as a journey and understand that finding the right text, our books or others, but that it's the right one are very critical early on because they're young minds. They're easily telling themselves stories on, oh, I'm not good in reading. Oh, I don't like reading. Oh, I don't like books. And we do want to make sure they're fluent readers, But we really, really focus on as our vision and values are they're lifelong learners. There will be a lot of technologies out there in the future where we might say, oh, do they really need to read or write? Again, it is not the reading and writing that maybe is the key, but you have to be able to read and write to really survive in a society like ours. But more importantly, going through that process still with your, emotional muscles intact. And the stories they tell themselves are not the limiting beliefs that we as adults continue to work on. So our focus really for the readers is the emotional well-being supported with, reading and writing that comes with academics.
This is fantastic. Can I tell them now, or must I wait even longer? We are partnering as a team to promote her decodable books in our new subscription box series called Relief in 3D. We've been talking about it on the Tier 1 Interventions podcast, but this is the first time I'm bringing it up here at the Writing Glitch. So if you have students that are struggling, that have difficulty with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia, we have partnered with a math teacher and we're partnering with Simple Word Books to bring you resources that you can have in your classroom at a moment's notice. Plus, we're also providing relief for you. We have fun things for you. For Christmas this year, we put out some fuzzy socks and some earrings for that holiday bash. But every month there's going to be something different just for you, the teacher or the occupational therapist or the parent that's helping these students. So anybody who is out there that is looking to get more tools, we are partnering with Cigdem's company so that we can provide you with her books over time. So Fox Hunt is one of the first ones that we are going to be sharing. So based on what you've learned in this episode today, you can take that back and you can take it and use it practically. Thank you, Cigdem, for sharing that.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of that as well. It is I've seen the sneak peek. It is so much fun. What's in there is quite amazing. I love it. And I'm
Well,
honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
well, thank you. I'm honored that you have agreed to be part of it as well. Now, listeners, remember, you were put here for such a time as this. Go be awesome, go be brilliant, and take what you've learned here back to your classroom and help those kids extend their journey for a lifetime. Cigdem, thank you for being here today. Is there anything that you want to say in closing?
Again, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just contact us. We have the contact us link on our website, or you can email me at Knebel, Knebel at simplewordsbooks.com. And I'll get back to you with any questions. I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to support and serve.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, everybody.